Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you for being here today. Merci d'être ici aujourd'hui. We all know that, like many cities across Canada, Ottawa is experiencing a housing crisis. Housing has become too expensive for too many families. Le logement est devenu trop coûteux pour trop de familles. I speak to residents all the time about their struggles and their anxieties. I know many people are astonished at rising rent prices. I know many parents worry their children will never be able to afford a home. The rising cost of housing is one of the reasons that the demand on food banks is higher than ever before. The numbers are clear. In just 6 years, the average resale price of a home in Ottawa has gone up by more than 50%. Average rent has risen by 30%. These costs are rising faster than incomes, and it's unsustainable. Ces coûts augmentent plus vite que les revenus des gens, et ce n'est pas viable. That's why housing has been a top priority for me and for my colleagues on City Council. C'est pourquoi le logement est une priorité pour moi et mes collègues du Conseil municipal. Since the start of this term, we've approved more than 60,000 new homes. But here's the thing, an approval isn't everything. Too many of those projects aren't getting built, or they aren't getting built fast enough. And there are many reasons for that. High interest rates, a slow economy, and rising construction costs are huge factors. And look, those factors are beyond our control at City Hall. We don't set interest rates. We don't control market forces. Nous ne décidons pas les taux d'intérêt. Nous ne contrôlons pas les forces du marché. But there's no question that City Hall has played a role. We have to own our part of the problem. Nous devons assumer notre part du problème. We hear all the time from home builders about just how hard it can be to get to a yes on a responsible, reasonable housing proposal. They talk about how information is asked of them too early in the process for them to have answers, how it takes multiple rounds of comments back and forth to move a file forward, and how disagreements between city departments leave them stuck and feeling like there's no way forward. A recent application to build hundreds of units of missing middle homes was delayed for months because of a disagreement about a zoning interpretation. That's just one example. But when months and months are added to the process, that increased costs substantially, and that sometimes makes it unaffordable for the project to move forward. Our Auditor General recently released a report that found that bottlenecks and inconsistent expectations across city departments remain and have resulted in increasing overall development review timelines. I want to thank the Auditor General for her work and for making her findings so explicit. We need to be accountable for our role in the housing crisis, and we need to fix it. It's not easy, because there are good reasons why we have rules. Our professional city staff do their utmost to make sure that new homes are safe, that they fit within their communities, and that any development prioritizes the public over developers. Nevertheless, we need to do our part. We have to own our part of the problem, and we have to own our part of the solution. We don't control every part of the housing process, but it's time for us to do a lot better in the parts we do control. Il est temps que nous faisons beaucoup mieux dans les aspects du processus de logement que nous contrôlons. It's time for us to start saying yes to housing. That's why today I'm introducing my Housing Action Plan. Aujourd'hui, je présente mon plan d'action pour le logement. This plan sets a new ambition for City Hall, to be a much more housing-friendly city. In fact, I think we should strive to make Ottawa the most housing-friendly city in Canada. What does it mean to be housing-friendly? It means we're making it easier to build homes, not harder. It means we're focused on how to build more homes in Ottawa instead of letting unnecessary procedural hurdles get in the way. It means we're saying no to unnecessary delays, and we're saying yes to housing. Cela signifie que nous disons non au retard inutile et que nous disons oui au logement. Earlier this year, with the support of City Council, I asked a group of housing experts, including home builders, to tell us what needs to change. I asked staff to work with them and conduct deep research into options for solutions, including looking at what's happening in other cities. I asked these experts and staff to present me with bold and innovative ideas that would make the City of Ottawa a partner rather than an impediment to building more homes, to building homes faster, and to building homes cheaper. The Housing Innovation Task Force has been working since April, and today we are releasing their report. And I want to thank Debbie Stewart, our General Manager of Strategic Initiatives, for co-chairing the task force. I'd also like to thank all the members of the task force who lent us their time and expertise, their considerable time and expertise to help us shape our ambitious plan. We are very grateful to them. The recommendations of the Housing Innovation Task Force are a cornerstone of the new Housing Action Plan. The message from the task force was very clear. Building homes has become too slow, too expensive, and too complicated. We're going to take their advice, and we're going to change the system. Nous allons suivre leurs conseils et changer le système. And through the Housing Action Plan, we're going to go even further. We're going to remove barriers. We're going to speed up approvals. We're going to make it easier to get shovels in the ground. In fact, we're going to take more than 50 different actions to make our process more efficient, lower costs, and change our culture. More than 50 different actions. This is quite simply the most ambitious housing plan in our city's history. It's the biggest overhaul of our planning process ever. C'est la plus grande refonte de notre processus de planification jamais réalisée. The Housing Action Plan is built around 5 key themes. 1, simplify and speed up approvals. Simplifier et accélérer les approbations. We'll cut red tape and unnecessary rules and studies and standardize agreements so we can move shovel-ready projects forward faster. 2, build a pro-housing culture at City Hall. Favoriser une culture pro-logement à l'Hôtel de Ville. This means moving from a process-oriented approach to a results-oriented approach. We'll resolve conflicting policy priorities and give staff every tool and authority necessary to say yes to responsible development. 3, we will lower costs and fees, réduire les coûts et les frais. We will pause, reduce, or be more flexible on a wide range of fees and charges. We'll pause fees like community benefit charges for the next 5 years, immediately reducing costs on multi-residential units by 4% of their land value. We'll also allow development charges and other upfront costs to be deferred, interest-free, until much later in the building process. And we'll keep working with our federal and provincial partners to find ways to reduce development fees by funding infrastructure in other ways. We'll waive some fees for nonprofit affordable housing projects, and we'll handle legal agreements with more speed and flexibility. Number 4, strengthen affordable housing development. Renforcer le développement de logements abordables. We're already making historic investments into affordable, supportive, and transitional housing. Earlier this week, as you know, we set an ambitious goal to eliminate youth homelessness in Ottawa by 2030. But we're going further than that. We will work with the affordable housing sector to rapidly scale up development of purpose-built affordable units. Ottawa will also make strategic use of public lands for responsible, affordable, and supportive housing development, just like we're doing, for example, at 1245 Kilbourne Place. And we'll work with our federal partners to scale up the number of affordable homes being built on federal land. I discussed this with Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday, and we agreed to work together on this important priority through the new Build Canada Homes. Finally, number 5, unlock urban intensification and transit-oriented development. Favoriser l'intensification urbaine et le développement axé sur le transport en commun. We will take big steps to encourage more residential development downtown. This includes improving our approach to conversions and immediately waiving some of the fees to make conversions more viable. So these are just some of the substantial moves that will make a real difference for getting more homes built faster. And let me be clear, we intend to move quickly, very quickly. If the recommendations are approved by City Council on October 8th, we'll implement 40% of them effective immediately. Si les recommandations sont approuvées par le Conseil municipal le 8 octobre, nous mettrons en œuvre 40% d'entre elles immédiatement. Another 40% of the recommendations will be considered by City Council over the next year. This includes updating outdated secondary plans, reviewing the entire development approvals process to make it faster and simpler, creating accelerator programs for office to residential conversions, missing middle housing development, and additional residential units, and taking a full look at municipal costs and fees, including development charges and park-related costs, to get homes built at lower costs, improve supply, and ultimately make the market more accessible. The remaining recommendations will follow, including things like exploring how we can use AI to speed up the development process. So that's the plan. We're going to get started right away. But here's some good news. The team at the city has already been making changes and improvements while the plan was being developed. And we're already starting to see some progress. From 2022 to 2024, there have been more than 28,000 housing starts in Ottawa. That's 95% of our target for that period. Housing starts have jumped more than 50% this year compared to the same period last year. That's the highest increase of any major Canadian city. And remember that example I gave earlier about the disagreement over a zoning definition? I'm pleased to say that development was recently approved at Council, enabling hundreds of new units to be built. We still have a lot to do, but these quick wins represent momentum that we can build on. And there are other big steps ahead of us. In January, Council will consider the most ambitious and pro-housing zoning bylaw in the city's history. En janvier, le Conseil examinera le règlement du zonage le plus ambitieux et favorable au logement de l'histoire de la ville. The new bylaw will enable substantially more housing per hectare, particularly near transit, and it will be dramatically less complex. The new bylaw moves from 600 different development standards in residential zones down to 30, making it easier and more permissive to build. That means more homes being built in the missing middle. That means a wider range of housing that fits comfortably into existing neighborhoods. That means encouraging more density near transit. Cela signifie encourager une plus grande densité près du transport en commun. In addition to the new zoning bylaw, we'll continue to work with the federal government to unlock public land for housing. The Housing Action Plan is a generational effort to fundamentally change our approach to housing. It's the most ambitious municipal housing plan in Canada. It's how we move from being part of the problem to being part of the solution. It's how we do our part. With the Housing Action Plan, we are saying yes to housing. Avec le plan d'action de logement, nous disons oui au logement. We're saying yes to housing for families. We're saying yes to housing for seniors. We're saying yes to housing for young people. We're saying yes to affordable housing. As long as I'm mayor, I will keep fighting for more homes, for faster approvals, for less process and red tape, for stronger communities, and for more affordable housing. Tant que je serai maire, je continuerai de me battre pour plus de logements, pour des approbations plus rapides, pour moins de démarches et de bureaucratie, pour des communautés plus solides et pour un logement plus abordable. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. We'll now invite each agency in alphabetical order to ask their questions. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique, j'invite chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. We'll now start with Arthur White-Crummey at CPC Ottawa.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. So a lot of the objectives in this plan seem to be focused on making it faster and cheaper to get housing approved by the city for projects to move through the process. But there's already so much housing that's been approved, that's gotten zoning bylaw amendments, that's even gotten building permits, and it's still not getting built. So how can we expect these actions to be any different, to actually promote builders to build houses that have been approved, especially when there's no funding attached to this that I can see?
Again, we have to focus on the part we can control. We don't control the market. We don't control decisions by home builders. We don't control interest rates. We don't control market forces. What we can control is the speed at which new units are approved and the costs associated with those new units. And if we're able to do that and we're able to unlock more public land and create more spaces where homes can be built, then I think that will create conditions in the marketplace that will help to get those homes built faster. But we don't control everything. So we're focused on the part we can control. We heard a lot of feedback that we need to do better, and we're going to do better.
So this is all about saying yes to housing, as you stated. It's right there on the screen. But just yesterday, you said that the city will do everything in its power to fight 1,480 housing units in Canada. I'm wondering how we can square those two messages and whether that attitude is part of the problem that you're fighting against today.
We're saying yes to housing where it's responsible and appropriate. We're not saying, yes, we're going to build housing in every city park. We're not saying we're going to build housing on Parliament Hill. We're not saying we're going to build housing in areas where it's not suitable or where the infrastructure doesn't exist or where it's never going to work. We're talking about building housing where it's responsible and appropriate, close to public transit, in areas where growth is sustainable, not on a piece of land that is where there's a commitment for it to be green space. That's not the objective here. We're saying yes to responsible, appropriate development.
Thank you. We'll now go to Tyler Fleming at CTV Ottawa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Will you be pausing development charges?
We will be deferring development charges to later in the process at occupancy. So we will defer development charges interest-free until a point later in the process, which we think will help with the cash flow for many builders and make it easier for them to move forward on homes. And we'll continue to work with the federal and provincial governments on ways that we can reduce development charges by paying for infrastructure in different ways.
Back to the previous question, a court did rule that this land can be developed, so isn't it in a sense responsible development?
There's a lot more to that particular development than just whether or not it technically can be developed. There's lots of spaces in the city where you could technically be allowed to develop, but that doesn't mean the infrastructure's there. That doesn't mean that it's the right place for development to happen. So we make those kinds of decisions all the time about where development is appropriate. And I think we all agree that that's not an appropriate place for development to occur. There are a lot of logistic and infrastructure barriers. And there was a commitment that was made to the community that that would be green space. So again, we're not saying yes to building homes on every green space in the city. We're saying yes to building homes where it's responsible and appropriate.
Thank you. On va à Sébastien Pierros, Le Droit.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Monsieur le maire. Lors de l'annonce mardi sur le logement, vous nous aviez dit un objectif de 2030. Est-ce que là, vous avez un objectif, on va dire, avec une date pour résoudre ce problème?
Pas avec une date, mais l'objectif, c'est d'être pro-logement, de dire oui au logement, à l'hôtel de ville, de changer la culture ici, de réduire les frais, de réduire le processus et de le faire immédiatement.
We'll now go to David Sally, Ottawa Business Journal.
David?
Morning.
Morning.
So you talked a bit about conversions, cash in lieu of parkland, and perhaps some other incentives. What sorts of things might you be looking at in that vein? Like a Calgary-style incentive program, or what sorts of, has there been any discussion in that vein?
Yeah, so I think we need to incentivize office to residential conversions. I don't know if we have the exact formula yet on how that could work. We're going to work with the community, and our team at the city will take that on if this plan is approved by City Council, do the work, come back with some ideas, and we'll look at what's possible.
Okay, and working with the feds in that vein. I mean, obviously, we know there's been some properties earmarked potentially. Is that something you're going to want to discuss too?
Yeah, as I've said all along, we need to work in partnership with the federal government. We need a plan for downtown Ottawa. We need to talk about how they're going to dispose of some of the buildings that they have said they no longer need and that they plan to dispose of. What's going to happen to those properties? Are any of them suitable for conversion? What other purpose can they be used for? So I'm speaking regularly with local representatives, with the Prime Minister as well, on how we build a plan to dispose of those buildings in a responsible fashion, in a way that leads to more housing and more residential development in the downtown core. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. On va à Frédéric Papin, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, M. le maire. Les dernières statistiques démontrent qu'à Ottawa, la construction, ça va très bien cette année, qu'on va même atteindre les objectifs de l'année, contrairement à l'an dernier. Vous êtes parmi les meilleures villes au Canada avec les chantiers entamés cette année. Pourquoi est-ce que vous misez donc là-dessus? Ça va bien cette année. Est-ce que vous craignez que ça ne va pas se maintenir pour les prochains 6, 7, 8 ans? On voit qu'à Toronto, ça commence à ralentir. Donc, est-ce que vous avez une crainte pour les statistiques?
J'ai toujours des inquiétudes, mais je ne sais pas l'avenir. Je ne sais pas ce qui se passera à l'avenir. Alors, pour moi, c'est que j'ai entendu souvent dans la communauté des développeurs que le processus à l'hôtel de ville, ça prend beaucoup de temps et ça augmente les coûts. Alors, nous devons faire notre propre part pour aider le processus, pour dire oui au logement et pour assurer que le système fonctionne mieux. Alors, ce n'est pas, nous ne contrôlons pas le marché, les taux d'intérêt, tout ça, mais nous contrôlons le processus et le processus devrait être mieux.
Pouvez-vous donner un exemple pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde, pour qu'ils comprennent? Ça pourrait être quoi être un exemple pour encourager les promoteurs à venir faire la première pelletée de terre? Est-ce que ça veut dire plus de densification pour que ce soit plus rentable pour eux? Donnez-nous un exemple concret.
Un exemple concret que ce qui passera à l'avenir,
Oui.
peut-être, oui, avec ces changements.
Oui.
Alors, peut-être Marcia ou Debbie peuvent ajouter plus, mais pour moi, c'est que s'il y a un développeur, ça ne prend pas 2, 3, 4 ans pour avancer son application, son développement. C'est quelque chose qui... Nous sommes prêts à être un partenaire avec le développeur pour avancer leur plan et d'enlever les obstacles, réduire les frais pour que les développements s'avancent plus rapidement. Mais je ne sais pas si... Debbie... OK.
Alors, le
Pouvez-vous
but...
baisser le micro un peu, Debbie? Merci.
Merci. Le but vraiment, c'est d'augmenter la protection de logement à travers la ville, mais surtout dans les quartiers plus urbains. Et alors, il y a certains... On sait qu'on est dans une période économique où il y a beaucoup d'incertitudes. Et aussi, on voit des coûts de construction qui sont élevés d'une façon très marquante. Et alors, on essaie de juste encourager les développeurs qui ont les permissions requises pour construire le logement, de refaire leur chiffre, puis voir si avec les mesures qu'on a mises en place, est-ce que ça va fonctionner pour que dans le court terme, on a plus de logements. On sait que c'est quelque chose qu'on a vraiment besoin pour aider avec l'abordabilité du logement. Alors, on veut encourager la construction de logements maintenant. Et à la long terme, on veut assurer qu'on a un processus qui est très simplifié pour que ça continue.
Merci, Debbie.
In English.
I didn't understand English. Thank you. So this is a plan really that thinks about the short term and I would say the medium term for housing. We know that we're facing a housing situation where affordability is a challenge for many families and individuals, focusing really in areas such as the mayor said in terms of more in urban centers primarily. There are measures to lower the costs related to cities' fees in the short term so that developers who do have building permits can recalculate the numbers and see if that's going to make the difference for the project so we can get housing built in the short term. Over the medium term, it's really about a simplified process, rule changes that make sense so that we can continue that into the future.
Thank you. This concludes our media availability. Ceci conclut le point de presse d'aujourd'hui.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm just wondering if you've done any kind of analysis of the impact of some of these measures. Like, do you have any estimate of how much it could reduce costs, how many homes it could build, it could promote? Is there some kind of metric here?
Actually, we're going to work very hard to analyze this as we move forward. So it's not easy to determine what impact this will have, but we're going to put in place a rigorous method of measuring the progress that results from these changes. So I don't have a prediction for you, but there will be a process through which we will measure the results of this plan as we go.
Thank you.
Parce qu'il pourrait y avoir un impact sur les infrastructures en général de la ville. Est-ce qu'il y aura assez d'infrastructures pour toutes les résidences? Ces impacts-là, comment on calcule ça?
Je pense que nous avons l'infrastructure nécessaire près par exemple, près du transport en commun et dans les quartiers urbains. Alors, je ne pense pas que c'est un problème, mais nous allons regarder tous les impacts, oui. OK. Merci. Thank you.